Tom Hanks now says that if Philadelphia were made today, he wouldn't do it because the character was gay and he's not. Well, besides the fact that this would force all gay actors to reveal their sexuality, even if they didn't want to, great actors, which Tom is one, try hard to keep their private lives private so we don't think of their real lives when we see them in a movie that attempts to transport us into a different world. Could you really look at this actress now and not think of the trial? Should she only play bed-shitters now?
Tom Hanks has a new take that sounds like it came straight out of Hollywood's latest HR meeting. He's now saying that if Philadelphia were made today, he wouldn't take the role because the character was gay and he's not. Let that sink in for a second. The same actor who won an Oscar for portraying a gay man dying of AIDS is basically saying, yeah, I wouldn't do that now. And if you're thinking, wait, isn't that the entire point of acting? Exactly. That's the point. Before we get into it, hit like if you're exhausted watching Hollywood pretend identity politics is the same thing as talent. And if you're new here, subscribe, because this topic is not going away. Now back to Hanks, because what he's implying is pretty obvious. Only gay actors should play gay characters. And if you follow that logic to the end, it creates a whole new kind of pressure, actors having to prove who they are just to get hired. Meaning what? People should have to publicly reveal their sexuality to qualify for roles. That's not progress. That's forced disclosure. Great actors, and Tom Hanks is one, usually protect their private lives for a reason.
Casting directors have to stop listening to the casting police and go back to doing their job, which is picking the best actor for the role. Now, I mention this because a lot of people lately are either apologizing for or calling on others to apologize for playing roles they call appropriation. James Franco was just chosen to play Fidel Castro, and John Leguizamo posted, "No more appropriation. Boycott. This is fucked up. I don't got a problem with Franco, but he ain't Latino." Okay, but John Leguizamo is Colombian American. He ain't a Venetian, but he played one. He ain't a French little person or an Italian plumber, but he played them too because he's an actor.
Because the whole magic trick is that when you watch them, you stop seeing the celebrity and start seeing the character. But modern Hollywood is slowly strangling that magic, and Bill Maher has been one of the loudest voices calling it out. Maher recently went off on the industry's obsession with authentic casting, and honestly, it was one of the bluntest reality checks Hollywood has gotten in years. He targeted this new trend where actors and directors feel like they need to apologize for acting. Like pretending to be someone else is now treated as offensive, which is hilarious, because pretending to be someone else is literally the job description. Maher mocked the casting police, who act like every role needs to be filled by someone who perfectly matches the character's identity, or else it's appropriation.
Appropriating sounds like an unforgivable sin until you remember that's what acting is. That's why acting jobs are called roles. Sean Penn won an Oscar for playing gay civil rights martyr Harvey Milk. At the time, it was considered a courageous act of solidarity for a straight male movie star to play a homosexual. Now it's the opposite. Eddie Redmayne played a transgender woman in The Danish Girl, but now calls that a mistake because many people don't have a chair at the table. Well, actually, in movies now they do. And what does it have to do with you playing trans? Does it then work the other way? Can trans actors only play trans characters? Because that's not going to be a good deal for them.
And he pointed to real examples. James Franco got criticized for being cast as Fidel Castro because he's not Latino. John Leguizamo even called for a boycott, calling it appropriation, which is rich because Leguizamo has played all kinds of identities over the years. He's played characters across ethnicities, nationalities, even wildly different types. But suddenly now he's drawing moral red lines. Maher's point was simple. Casting directors need to stop listening to these identity hall monitors and go back to doing their actual job, which is choosing the best actor for the role. And Maher didn't stop there. He basically said, if these rules existed when you started, you wouldn't have a career. And he's right, because if actors can only play characters that match their real-life identity, then most of Hollywood is unemployed by tomorrow morning.
Why don't we just go by merit and let the best actor win? Which seems like what happened when Ana de Armas just got picked to play Marilyn Monroe, even though she's Cuban with an accent. Hey, maybe she should play Fidel Castro and James Franco can play Marilyn Monroe, and then we can all stay in our lanes. Is that what diversity and inclusion look like now? Everybody's staying in their lane?
Here's the truth. Acting is empathy. It's stepping into someone else's life, someone else's struggle, someone else's world, and making the audience believe it. The moment we declare actors are only allowed to play themselves, we're not protecting anyone. We're killing the art. Think about how quickly the whole creative world collapses under these rules. No straight actors playing gay roles. No non-disabled actors playing disabled characters. No one playing historical figures from another country. No one playing anything outside their own biography. So what happens then? Daniel Day-Lewis can't play Lincoln. Meryl Streep can't play Thatcher. Denzel can't do Shakespeare. Everything turns into a boring, locked-down system where movies feel like they were written by compliance departments instead of storytellers. Maher made the perfect point. The word appropriation sounds like a serious moral crime until you remember that acting is literally appropriation. That's why they're called roles. He brought up Sean Penn winning an Oscar for Milk. Back then, it was considered courageous. A straight actor taking on a gay role to spotlight a story that mattered. Today, that same decision would get you dragged online by people who have never written a script or performed a scene in their lives. Maher also mentioned Eddie Redmayne later, saying it was a mistake to play a trans woman in The Danish Girl because he isn't trans. But he transformed. He did the job. He got nominated for an Oscar. And instead of respecting the craft, the culture punishes it. Maher's question was deadly simple. If only trans actors can play trans characters, does that mean trans actors are only allowed to play trans roles? Because that's not inclusion. That's a smaller box with nicer branding. And once Hollywood becomes obsessed with boxes instead of stories, everyone loses. Actors get fewer chances. Stories get watered down. Audiences get bored. The industry that used to celebrate transformation is now terrified of it. Maher even joked about Ana de Armas, who's Cuban, playing Marilyn Monroe. Some people complained her accent made her wrong for the role. So Maher joked, fine. Let Ana de Armas play Fidel Castro and let James Franco play Marilyn Monroe. Then everybody can stay in their lane.
And isn't the best acting always about making us feel our common humanity beyond separate identities? A black George Washington in Hamilton, of course. But Ryan Gosling as Frederick Douglass? Yes, that would be problematic.
It's funny, but it's also the future Hollywood is building. A world where diversity means everyone stays separated in their own assigned categories. And at some point, you have to ask, when did identity become more important than ability? When did transformation become offensive? This whole stay in your lane mindset doesn't improve film. It makes film ridiculous. Maher rattled off the endless controversies. Johnny Depp criticized for playing a Native American character. Gal Gadot criticized for wanting to play Cleopatra because she's Israeli. Emma Stone criticized for playing a Hawaiian character. Jake Gyllenhaal criticized for playing Persian. But then you flip it, and some identity swapping is suddenly celebrated as artistic expression, like Hamilton casting black actors as the founding fathers.
Lawrence of Arabia was gay. Peter O'Toole wasn't. I can live with that. Because he was so cool, he almost made me gay. Emma Stone caught hell for playing a Hawaiian, Jake Gyllenhaal for playing a Persian, Gal Gadot for wanting to play Cleopatra, Johnny Depp for playing an Indian, even though he's not an actual Comanche, and spoiler alert, he also doesn't really have scissor hands. And he's not actually a drunken pirate. Okay, bad example.
So which is it? Because the rules aren't consistent. They change depending on who's yelling. And what the current outrage trend is, that hypocrisy is what Maher keeps hammering. Some identity crossings are praised, others are treated like unforgivable sins. And here's the bigger issue Maher pointed out, and it matters more than casting debates. When you force actors to publicly define themselves, you ruin the illusion. The best actors keep their private lives private so you don't watch a performance and think about their identity, their politics, their personal drama. You watch and you disappear into the story. Maher made that point with Daniel Day-Lewis. Nobody really knows what he's like, and that's part of why he's so powerful. When he plays Lincoln, you don't think, here's a British guy acting. You just see Lincoln. That's the goal. But now everything gets filtered through personal identity details we were never supposed to be thinking about in the first place. And then Maher tied it back to Tom Hanks's comment. Hanks said people wouldn't accept the inauthenticity of a straight actor playing a gay character because we're beyond that now. No, that word beyond implies progress. This isn't progress, it's regression. Maher's argument is that this kind of thinking doesn't evolve liberalism, it dismantles it. Because empathy used to be the core idea, trying to understand someone else's experience. Now the message is, don't even try, you could never understand. And Maher brought up Black Like Me, a book from the 1950s where a white journalist darkened his skin to experience what Black Americans faced. Back then, it was framed as empathy. Today, people would ignore the intention and scream, blackface, and end the conversation right there.
And it is, frankly, typical of so much wokeness that doesn't build on liberalism. It undoes it. Empathy, putting yourself in someone else's place so you can understand them better, used to be the very heart of liberalism. Now it's considered offensive because don't even try to put yourself in my shoes because you could never know. What a bunch of bullshit that always was. Of course, no one can ever know exactly what another person's struggle is, but we try. Black Like Me was a 1950s book about a white man who darkened his skin and went out into society because he wanted to understand what his black brothers and sisters were up against. Today, all the woke mob would see about that was a guy who did blackface.
That's the difference. One approach tries to connect. The other approach condemns and divides. And that's the trap. The outrage machine has no finish line. Ignore an issue, you're heartless. Engage with it, you're appropriating. The goalposts move constantly and everyone's just trying not to get targeted. Maher even mocked the term Jewface, which some activists used to criticize non-Jewish actors playing Jewish roles, like Bradley Cooper portraying Leonard Bernstein. Maher joked that using a word like that to fight anti-Semitism is so absurd it sounds like something a lunatic would shout in traffic. And again, he's not wrong about the insanity of it. Are we seriously going to start assigning roles based on religion too? Do actors need paperwork now? Background checks? DNA tests before auditions? This isn't about better movies. It's about shrinking imagination. Maher's bottom line was blunt. This is exclusion with prettier PR. Hollywood used to expand what actors could do, not narrow it down to personal identity. It used to celebrate transformation, not punish it. And the saddest part is the people cheering this on think they're doing something righteous. But they're dividing the very industry that used to bring people together through stories. Because audiences don't really care what boxes an actor checks. They care if the movie is good. They care if the performance hits. They care if the story feels real. Maher's point is simple: cast the best person for the role. Let talent win. That's what acting used to be. And if Hollywood doesn't snap out of this ideological coma soon, it's going to lose the very magic that made people fall in love with movies in the first place. Because here's the truth. Acting isn't about being yourself. It's about being someone else. It's empathy, imagination, and transformation. And the moment Hollywood forgets that, the art dies. So maybe instead of obsessing over who's allowed to play what, Hollywood should remember why we love movies at all. To escape, to connect, to feel something. And as for Tom Hanks, if Philadelphia were made today, maybe the point wouldn't be whether he's allowed to play the role. Maybe the point would be reminding people what real acting actually looks like. What do you think? Should actors only play roles that match their real-life identity, or should we go back to choosing based on talent instead of outrage? Drop your take in the comments, and if you want more breakdowns like this, subscribe and share. Because at this rate, the only acting left in Hollywood will be people pretending this system makes sense. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to press the subscribe button because we have much more to uncover.